everybody, and welcome back to the United Stand. Today we are joined by Fabrizio Romano. Fabrizio, how are you? And welcome to the show.
Thank you as always. I'm fine, thank you. Thanks as always.
Yes, it's great to have you back on. Obviously, not quite a transfer season yet, but it is upon us. But first and foremost, I want to ask you about the manager, Erik Ten Hag. I think everybody saw the turbulent game that was yesterday's FA Cup semi-final. Managed to just get through on penalties there. A lot of people were saying, you know, if Ten Hag lost that game, it might be the final nail in the coffin for his job. I mean, Ineos still at the same place they were, is how we spoke last time with Erik Ten Hag, and what is the situation on that one?
Yeah, the feeling remains the same. I think nothing has changed. Obviously, these kind of games are not helping Erik Ten Hag for the long term, are not going to help Erik Ten Hag for the round of discussion that they will be closer to the end of the season. So for sure, they can't be happy with that kind of performances for the last 20 minutes. This is something that is not at Manchester United level. So it's obvious that it's going to create an issue when it's going to be time to discuss about his future. But in terms of present, so as of today, nothing has changed. Ineos keep their position. They are not discussing with other managers yet. They are having internal discussions, and they're already involved, as we mentioned, Erik Ten Hag, in their projects for the future. But at the same time, their final decision will be made closer to the end of the season. So not now is not something that they are deciding in this moment. Obviously, we'll have the chance to have this FA Cup final with Manchester City. Is going to be really important for Erik Ten Hag's future, I think. And then we will see what they will decide. But I don't think they were going to have any reaction after the game, and even if they lost against Coventry, I think the situation was exactly the same. They will decide at the end of the season.
There was reports coming out earlier on. I mean, it is the start of the week. I mean, last week there was reports coming out last week that Erik Ten Hag might walk away from Manchester United if he doesn't get assurances through Ineos over his future. Is there any truth in that, to your knowledge?
I think it's Manchester United deciding the future more than Erik Ten Hag. Erik Ten Hag is happy to be at Manchester United and knows the opportunity. It's huge to be Manchester United manager. Obviously, you always want to be involved in discussions, involved in the transfer plan, in many things when it's a huge club like Manchester United, yes, but you also want to have your own impact. But at the same time, I'm hearing that at the end it's Ineos deciding. Erik Ten Hag is not creating any issue in the conversation with Ineos. I think it's going to be the club to decide, to have a direct conversation with all the people involved. Now it's important to say that the board structure is already in a good place finally, so they will discuss internally, and I keep believing that it's going to be Ineos deciding and not Erik Ten Hag changing his mind.
Yes, I would have thought that as well, so it's good to kind of get the clarity on that. And then Thomas Tuchel was a name that hasn't really been brought up, but last week again there was some mumblings that Tuchel is quite liked by Ineos and he's potentially on the list as a manager that could replace Erik Ten Hag. I mean, I wanted to ask your opinion on this. I mean, I thought maybe it could be, you know, rumours because Tuchel's obviously going to be out of a job in the summer and then it's easy to put two and two together. But is there actually some truth in that Tuchel is liked by Ineos?
No, there is nothing concrete at this point. You know, there is many people into Ineos who appreciate many managers. We heard the same about Potter, Southgate, and many others. So it's kind of obvious story. There are many managers who are maybe discussed internally, but at the moment they didn't make contact with Tuchel or with his agents. From what I heard, I was even checking yesterday. At the moment there is absolutely nothing. Also, Tuchel himself doesn't want to start any conversation or any potential discussion before the end of the season for Bayern, especially now they are in Champions League semi-finals. So nothing is really concrete into it from what I'm hearing. I think Man United first step will be to decide on Erik Ten Hag, and then at that point they will consider the options they have available in terms of managers. But at this point, to mention names, I think it's still really early and is kind of guess job because I'm not aware of any direct contact at this point with any manager. Even if many are in the media at this point, I can guarantee that nothing is concrete.
See, that's a good thing because I was thinking with the Tuchel story, I would doubted that there'd be any sort of contact up till now. So the fact that there's been no contact, I mean, I think that makes sense for Thomas Tuchel as well, considering, you know, he's got huge opportunity with Bayern Munich and we'll see how that goes. But thank you for the update on the manager. Now into a little bit to do with transfers. I mean, Branthwaite is one that I wanted to talk to you about because he's been linked to Manchester United quite a lot. We assume the price tag is going to be very, very high. I mean, I struggle to see how Manchester United could pay that sort of money just on one signing, considering how many positions they might want to go for this summer. I mean, on Branthwaite, is it just a name that's in the media? Are Manchester United actually like tracking him quite highly? I mean, how much interest is there with him?
No, the interest is there for sure. Then Man United are waiting to understand what's going to be the final price tag because this is not clear yet. They're still waiting to hear from Everton, and it's exactly the same with other players. So to understand what is going to be the final the final price tag, but he's one of the players they appreciate for that position. Then I think they will decide based on budget, based on the manager situation. So there are still many factors before saying, okay, this is the top target for the centre-back position. But Brantwaite is one of the players they really appreciate. I would keep mentioning also Jean-Claire Todibo, who can be even cheaper, obviously. From what I'm hearing, could be something around 40 millions. Then there is Gleison Bremer. The price is already clear. It's around 55, 60 million euros in this case for Gleison Bremer, with the release clause active in summer 25. But Juventus already prepared to discuss this summer in case that money comes to the table. So there are already these three names, and I will keep an eye also on other potential names. For example, Tapsoba is a player they've been scouting for a long time at Bayer Leverkusen, but he's going to be very expensive, I think. So there are many factors to decide the top target in the position, but Man United are actively working on different profiles in order to decide who is the player they really want. And I think on this, also the manager is going to be important to see if Ten Hag is staying or not, to understand who is the player they really want to sign.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I think it'd be, obviously, I know that Sir Jim and Ineos want to build this recruitment team, but the manager is still quite important. And if that's up in the air, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what profile each manager would want, because I assume it would be a little bit different. On to Debo, obviously, we have been looking at him for a long time now. We spoke about him on the show for a while. There was reports saying that Atletico were ready to make him their #1 target and spend a lot of money on this player. You talk about him being 40 to 45 million. I mean, is the big interest from Atletico on Todibo, and could that maybe get in the way, or is Man United still front runners on that?
From what I heard, Atletico are in a similar position as Manchester United. So they're showing interest in Todibo, but it's not guaranteed yet that it's going to be their first target for different reasons, including financial fair play. We know that in Spain it's even more restrictive, so it's not going to be easy for Atletico to spend big money on a centre-back. They have several options, like 3-4 players. Todibo is one of them, so it's quite similar to Manchester United's situation, but they've still not decided who is the player they want to sign. So Atletico are there. Also, Juventus could be interested in Todibo in case Gleison Bremer leaves the club. So there are several clubs interested in Todibo. I think he will move in the summer. The player believes that now it's time to go after he was close to Man United last summer, Tottenham in January, so he had many possibilities. Now this summer, I think it's time for him to go. And at the moment, I think Man United and Atletico are in a similar position, still not decided who is their top target.
Do you think? I mean, I was going to ask you which one the player would prefer, but maybe that isn't something that.
I think Premier League is always the dream.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. That is good to know. Premier League is. I mean, we love it over here in England, but I mean, the Premier League teams aren't doing too well in Europe this year, so maybe that's got to change as well. But on Jeremy Frimpong, another player that is quite interested in playing in the Premier League. There was rumours that maybe he'd want to stay at Leverkusen for another year because Alonso is staying. But do you think he definitely will move in the summer?
I think he has a chance to move, honestly, because in this case, there is a release clause. So Bayer Leverkusen need to sell one player in order to be okay with the financial fair play and reinvest that money on different players on a summer transfer window. We have to see who is going to be this player, because we mentioned Tapsoba, there is interest in Frimpong, there is interest in many players, including the striker Victor Boniface is appreciated by many clubs around Europe, so they have to decide together with Xabi Alonso who is the player they want to sell. But in the case of Frimpong, having a release clause means that at the end is the player deciding if any club want to trigger the release clause. The release clause, from what I heard, is in excess of 40 million euros, so a bit more than 40. Let's see what's going to happen, because there is interest for sure from England. I'm not sure yet that Manchester United will invest that kind of money on a right back, on a position that is already covered by Dalot and Wan-Bissaka. So we have to see if they decide to invest that money. Then there is the left back, centre backs, striker, many positions to cover. So let's see what kind of budget they will have for the summer transfer window. They appreciate Frimpong for sure. He's a player that they had in the list for a long time. Even before the World Cup, it was November 22, they had some meetings to discuss the potential conditions of the deal with people close to the player. Then the move didn't happen, but Frimpong is always been in the list of Manchester United. So I'm sure the appreciation is there, but I'm not sure that Man United will decide to invest that amount of money on a right back.
Well, I was going to ask actually, because I thought the same thing as you, because of the amount of positions that we need to cover. But I was thinking, I mean, one, I wanted to ask you, is the chance of Wan-Bissaka moving on in the summer? Because if so, that might open the door, and there's been rumours that might happen. And two, there was some reports coming out that Erik Ten Hag wanted to have a look at Harry Armas for Manchester United before they decided to invest in a left-back. But obviously we've spoke about the fact that we're probably going to go for a left-back in the summer. So I just wanted to get clarification on the left-back, and also if Wan-Bissaka has a chance of leaving in the summer as well.
No, from what I heard, Man United want to sign a left back. Hamas is really appreciated. They believe he has a huge potential, but at the same time, they can't risk again with left backs. With the respect for Hamas, it's also time for him to develop, not to have any kind of negative pressure in this case. Man United need a left back who can be fit, ready to play every single game and not creating any issues as happened this season with Malacia and Luke Shaw, who've been unlucky with injuries, but at the end, it's Man United and you can't play with centre backs being a left back for a long time. This is not in Manchester United style. So I think in that position, they really want to invest and to find a player who can help with on regular basis and be a starter. And at the same time, on Wan-Bissaka, what I believe is that if they receive an important proposal, the possibility for the player to leave is still there. So we have to see what happens, because at this point, I'm not aware of any concrete negotiation. Even with Inter, we heard these rumors about Inter being interested in Wan-Bissaka, but at the moment, Inter have not started any concrete talk to sign him. So let's see what's going to happen there. But I think it's an open situation for Wan-Bissaka. And obviously, as you mentioned, in that case, if they sell Wan-Bissaka, there is room for a new right back.
Is there any names yet on the left back front, or are we not there yet with that?
Not yet, but I can say that it's going to be a young left back from what I heard. So Man United are thinking of a young left back, a player who can be for present and future, but a player who already knows what does it mean to play at important level. So I think it will be an investment for something around 20, 25 million, something in that range.
Interesting stuff. And then Michael Olise, we talk about the amount of positions that Man United need to cover. I mean, quite a few United fans probably wouldn't say right wing is top priority. It's obviously something we need to look at. But is Michael Olise still a very hot topic for Manchester United going into the summer? Because he is a name that's been confirmed on both sides. And is it still something United might invest some money into?
Yes, it's one of the players they keep in their list. At the moment, from what I'm hearing, there has been no concrete movement in terms of advancing in conversations to sign Olise. We know he has at least close into his contract to Crystal Palace. So what Man United did already since February is to be informed on the release clause conditions, on the situation of the player, on the potential salary. So Man United are informed of the conditions of the deal for Olise, and he's one of the players they like. But it's exactly the same for other clubs. For example, Olise was in the list of Manchester City last summer. Chelsea wanted to sign him too. We know Arsenal also hold an interest in Olise. So there is competition for Olise, and we have to see who is going to trigger the release clause, because I don't think it's going to be easy to negotiate with Crystal Palace at all, as always when it's about important players. And then we have to see who's going to offer the best contract and the best project to the player. So we are not yet at the advanced stages of the story, but the interest is still there for sure.
I wanted to ask you about outgoings as well, because Manchester United fans, I think a lot of the fans want to see like a change, and they want to see, I think they want to see a bit of a clear out and kind of a new generation coming through, and maybe a clean slate under Ineos. I know it's impossible to kind of, completely start over, but I think as well with what Sir Jim was saying about being ruthless and having the best in class, I think a lot of United fans wanted to see things move on this summer. Are you hearing that there is going to be a lot of outgoings at Manchester United, and who could be on that list to go out the door, do you know?
I think many players will leave Man United, honestly. For example, with Varane, at the moment, there are still no negotiations over a new deal. Then let's see if Man United will change their mind maybe with another coach. But at the moment, the situation is completely quiet. There is no contract on the table. And so I see Varane leaving Man United as of today. Then we have to mention also Casemiro and Eriksen. I think these are two players who will have a conversation with Manchester United at the end of the season to discuss their future. And there is also a chance for at least one of them to leave Manchester United in the summer transfer window. And this could also change Manchester United plans in the midfield in terms of bringing in a new midfielder. Is still a possibility, I think, for Manchester United in the summer transfer window. Then Sofian Amrabat, I don't see him staying at Manchester United. I don't see them triggering the buy option. They have not informed Fiorentina yet, but I think it's just a matter of time, and then Sofian Amrabat will return to Fiorentina. Donny van de Beek will return to Man United from Eintracht Frankfurt, but the decision is already made internally. From what I heard, Donny is not staying at Man United, and they will look for a solution for him. Then there is Martial leaving on a free. So many players are going to leave Manchester United this summer. And then there are some players returning to the club. We mentioned Donny, but also Facundo Pellistri from Granada, and they have to decide internally what they want to do with him, still with the contract situation to be clarified. So there are really many situations to clarify, to discuss. So I think there is going to be a big change at Man United, yes.
Well, that is I think, good for the fans who kind of want that, and obviously they want to make some money so he can invest it into the summer as well. And then I wanted to ask you lastly kind of about a striker. I know that Manchester United maybe haven't put down the exact name that they are going to go for as of now. But on the striker situation, could you give us any names that are ones to watch, or what direction Manchester United are going to go in terms of a striker this summer?
The crucial point is the direction, because they are informed on many situations. For example, they are well informed on Šeško, they are well informed on Ivan Toney, so completely different strikers, because they have not decided yet if they want to go for an experienced striker. So, for example, Ivan Toney, who knows the league, who can be a solution to help with immediate impact, also to help Rasmus Højlund with some experience, or if they want to bring in a young striker next to Rasmus Højlund, so more similar to Rasmus Højlund, as it would be in the case of Benjamin Šeško. So there is still an internal discussion about that. Now with Jason Wilcox is going to have obviously an important impact at the club to decide this kind of strategies. I think it's an important addition for Manchester United to have one more important director helping with that. And then as soon as they will decide, we will have more clear what kind of player could be the right one for Man United. But they're informed on several players, because they are still discussing internally whether they want to go for an experienced or young striker.
Thank you for that, Fabrizio. Last little thing I wanted to ask you. Do you know if there's any chance, I mean, I don't know if you'll know this, but you know a lot, so I'll ask you. Do you know if there's any chance that Luke Shaw or Lisandro Martinez could be back for Man United's FA Cup final against Man City?
I think for Luke Shaw there is a possibility. They hope for that. He was hoping for the final games of the season, so I think he still hopes for that. But, you know, with injuries, we have to keep an eye on that till the end and see what happens.
Thank you very much, Fabrizio. Thank you very much for all of the updates, and we'll look forward to having you on coming up into a busy summer transfer window, we hope, for Manchester United.
It will be. Thank you. Thank you
very much. Thank you. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Well, everyone, that was Fabrizio Romano with all the latest transfer news and some news on Erik Ten Hag. And I thought that was a really good show and a really good update, considering the situation that Manchester United are in now, which is basically not many decisions have been made. Sergeant Ratcliffe, if anybody watched it, his interview after running the London Marathon. And by the way, Sergeant Ratcliffe, it's 71 years old, running the London Marathon. Round of applause. Honestly, some of our players should take note. But, I mean, can he do a job in defence? Seriously, honestly, because we're running out of options there. But considering, if you've seen that interview, Sergeant Ratcliffe, you know, said it's hard to kind of get things in place now, because you're trying to get people in, you're trying to get the likes of Dan Ashworth, Jason Wilcox, you've got garden leave, and it's hard to push forward with them decisions, and it's hard to make decisions now that are going to implement a change now. But what Manchester United do have to do is they have to face the summer transfer window head on, and the realistic factor is that Manchester United don't know if Erik Ten Hag is going to be the manager or not. Romano said there that I think the FA Cup final is a huge game with Erik Ten Hag and his future for Manchester United. I mean, I don't want to read too much into it, but that could be lose your job or keep your job for Erik Ten Hag. It really could, because if Erik Ten Hag loses that, Ineos, if they're already having doubts around Ten Hag, it's a very easy route to get rid of him and bring someone in who they want to be the face of their new project. Whoever that may be, we don't know. I 100% believe Fabrizio in what he says when he says that no negotiations or contacts have been made with any other manager. I believe that, because that is what's coming out right now surrounding Ineos and Sir Jim. I do think they want to wait till the end of the season. But if Erik Ten Hag wins the FA Cup final, it's a big if, especially after the game we all watched yesterday and the performances we've seen, it's not as easy to sack Ten Hag. I don't think it is. I mean, people would say he still could. You know, Louis van Gaal faced that. But Manchester United are in a different moment of time to when Louis van Gaal was the manager and he got sacked. I mean, I know Louis van Gaal got the sack after winning the FA Cup, but I think it's a different moment now. I think Man United fans, as bad as it is, are kind of more accepting in the situation that we're in, because it's been going on for a prolonged period of time. So that could be a huge game for Erik Ten Hag. But what we do know is, despite reports, there is no contacts with Thomas Tuchel. As much as Thomas Tuchel has maybe spoke fondly about Manchester United in the past, he doesn't want to look at any other new job right now. He wants to focus on Bayern Munich. And I think everybody talking about Zinedine Zidane, Thomas Tuchel, all the other names, I think we just need to wait. We need to wait out now till the end of the season. Romano, it came straight from the horse's mouth there, said even if Ten Hag lost yesterday against Coventry, there would be no statement, there would be no sacking. They want to wait until the end of the season, Sergeant Ratcliffe and Ineos. Ten Hag may well depart. That absolutely could happen. I think that's a big reason why we don't know specifics on transfers yet. We know names, we know profiles, but we don't know specifics, because Ineos themselves probably don't know if Ten Hag's going to be the manager for the new season and for the summer. I think it's likely that he will, but I think the FA Cup and now from the end of the season is absolutely huge, whether Ten Hag can turn it around just a little bit. But get in the comments down below what you think and how you're feeling about it. Also good to know the reports coming in about Ten Hag walking at the end of the season. There's nothing in that as well. So some good clarity there on the manager situation. Got a super chat in from SK saying, kind of glad the conversations are focusing now on the areas we need to change. If glaring issues weren't visible, they certainly should be now for Ineos. Exactly. And I think what Sir Jeremy Ratcliffe said in his little interview after his London Marathon as well, he kind of showed the knowledge and the insight into the fact he knows it's not just the manager. There's so many issues at the club that need sorting out, and that is what he's planning to do. It doesn't happen overnight. The cliche phrase, Rome wasn't built in a day. A manager could also be one of them issues, and they might decide to part ways. But as of now, that's not the main thing that they are focusing on. A lot of people saying that Ineos maybe a lot of people saying that they are kind of sitting on the fence by waiting until the end of the season. I don't think they are. I think they're biding their time. The last thing that they want to do is rush into a decision. You know, rush into sacking Erik Ten Hag and then not knowing who you're going to have to replace him. That wouldn't benefit anybody. You know, you've got the Euros going on as well. That's going to, you know, potential managers that we'll be looking at might be tied up in that. You know, it's tougher to talk to different camps when the Euros are going on. You know, getting rid of Erik, if they came out now and was like, we're getting rid of Erik Ten Hag and they don't have a plan, that does not help anybody. So I think they're doing the right thing by biding their time. And, you know, I think there's a very high likelihood that at the end of the season, Erik Ten Hag does leave Manchester United and a new manager is brought in. I think there's a very high likelihood in that. But they've not started them conversations yet. They're biding their time. And you never know. They might come to the conclusion with the help of Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada that actually, you know, we want to give Erik Ten Hag a chance because we've seen behind the scenes that yes, it might not be perfect with him, but there's much bigger issues that we need to focus on. There's not really a manager that takes our fancy. And who knows, it's a massive, massive if, but Ten Hag could win the FA Cup. And if he wins the FA Cup, I think he stays in his job, to be honest with you. That could be one of them games for him. It's going to be huge. It's going to be one of the biggest games in Man United's history, really, I think. Well, not one of the biggest games in the history. I mean, we've played Champions Leagues, we've played for Premier Leagues, you know, we've played huge cup finals. But I think this FA Cup final, it's huge in the history of Manchester United because it generally could be a decider on whether Erik Ten Hag stays in his job or not, and a manager of Manchester United, and that could be massive. So, I mean, it's literally just over a month until that happens. There's going to be a lot of kind of rumblings and movements before now and then. But Romano, who is obviously very well versed in what's going on, has said that no decision will be made till the end of the season, and there's been no contact with any managers. He's checked himself and there's been none. So I think that's what we need to kind of look at now, and we need to kind of take that in. And if you see reports coming out about conversations with other managers, they're just not true. They're just not true, and I don't think they will be until at least in a few weeks' time, maybe up until kind of that FA Cup final. But get in the chat what you guys think. I mean, a lot of hate for Erik, well, not hate, but a lot of disdain for Erik Ten Hag in the chat today. And I can understand because, I mean, I was at Wembley yesterday, guys. I think you all saw that if you saw the socials, if you saw my review at the end of the game when we're in the mix zone, please go and check that out if you didn't already. I was at Wembley yesterday. It was terrible. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. So I can understand the criticism. I can understand. Man United are in a bad place. Can Erik Ten Hag get out of it? That is the question. And then on sort of the transfers, I mean, not much, but I think what we can get out of it is Branthwaite is absolutely a top target that we could see ourselves going for, and so is Todibo. And when Erik Ten Hag says about the manager, I mean, first thing, it's good to know that Todibo wants the Premier League, so I think if it is Man United or Atletico Madrid, Man United would still kind of be chosen if it was up to Todibo, which is crazy considering Atletico will be competing in the Champions League and they are a better ranked club than us currently. But United have the Premier League pull, so I think we would be able to get Todibo. Todibo makes more sense because of the price tag, 40 to 45 million. Branthwaite's probably going to be around 70 million at least, I can gather. But I think United do really want Branthwaite. He's young, he's got a lot of potential. Yes, he had a bad game against Chelsea, but, you know, young players do. I still think he's going to be a top player, I'm going to be honest. So Branthwaite's going to be interesting. When Romano says, I think it depends on who the manager's going to be, I think that's true. I think if Ten Hag's the manager, it's Todibo. I think if it's a Potter or a Southgate, it's Branthwaite. Like, that's the way I kind of see it going, to be honest with you. I think both are very, very good centre-backs to go for. I think Todibo makes more sense because of the price, but I think it's going to be interesting as well to... I honestly think as soon as we have clarification on the manager situation, whether it is Erik Ten Hag or whether it's a different manager, that's when we're going to start getting all the transfer news kind of pouring out, and I think it's going to be exciting. There's going to be a big summer for Man United. Not Ten Hag. Fabrizio Romano said he expects a lot of outgoings for Manchester United. I think that's big. I think there's the obvious ones in terms of, you know, Van der Beek, the Sancho potentially, the Martials, the Varans, the Casemiro, the Eriksen. I think now Casemiro and Eriksen are creeping into the conversation. That is something that we can look at, and I think is a positive because I think both players need to move on. I think that was... I mean, if there's any game that showed that both Casemiro and Eriksen need to move on, I think it was yesterday. I still think, you know, they've both had great careers, and Eriksen's still got technicality. He's just lost his physicality, and Casemiro's lost his physicality. I mean, Casemiro, he just cannot keep up with the pace at all. And then Eriksen, when he came on, just looked like he was in no man's land. And this is against, you know, a championship side in Coventry, as big as respect to have for them, as good as they were, and how much of a fight they put up. Like, they need to go, and that could open the door for a midfielder coming in. So I think as soon as the manager situation is clarified, we'll have a lot more clarification on outgoings and players coming in. I think the big thing is with the Casemiro and Eriksen thing as well is they were in the maybe category. They're going into more of the, it's very likely they're going to leave category. It's just whether Casemiro would kind of want to go to Saudi. And then there's the Wan-Bissakas, the Maguires, the McTominays, players that might leave if a massive offer, sorry, not if a massive offer, but if a good offer comes in, but probably because of the amount of work we've got to do this summer, we'll end up staying. And maybe it'll be a next window kind of job for that. But get in the comments down below what you would think on that. The one thing I can say for McTominay and Maguire is they've both been top professionals this season, and they've been hugely important in terms of results for us. They have been. But do I think the Man United first team quality going forward? No, but I don't think many players at the football club are. So, I mean, if they would have been sold in the summer, where would we have been at? I mean, some people would say we would have gone and bought Kim Min-jae, which would have been hugely influential for us. So it's one of them. Discussions to be had, but I do think there will be a lot of outgoings. I just think the players that a lot of the fans want to move on because, you know, they're playing in regularly and they want to see better first team players, the likes of the Rashfords, you know, and them players. I just don't see a chance that they move on, unfortunately, for a lot of people. But I think, for me, I think Rashford's one of them where he absolutely will stay at Manchester United. But I think a lot of fans, if you ask them now if they'd want him to move on in the summer, they'd say absolutely. I think it's time to move on. And Man United, I mean, is something that they need to evaluate for sure. Maguire and McTominay will probably end up staying because we've got so many players deadwood that we need to get rid of. But there are also players that you could cash in on and get money for. Wan-Bissaka as well. He's another player that I personally think we should cash in and get money for and rebuild the squad. The problem is for Man United, we've got so much to do in one summer. And I just don't know if we'll be able to handle that, especially considering, you know, we've not even kind of got settled yet in terms of the structure with the Omar Barada, the Dan Ashworth, the Jason Wilcox. Yeah, Jason Wilcox is in, Omar Barada's going to start, but it's all kind of a quick turnaround. Dan Ashworth isn't even there yet. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough for the fans to be pleased, I think, this summer. And then on the striker situation, basically, I think if it's a young striker, Sesko's probably going to be the ideal one for Man United. It's just whether an Arsenal gets there first with the release clause he's got. And then I think if it's an experienced striker, it's going to be the likes of Ivan Toney. That's how I'm feeling about the situation now. I think we should go and get Ivan Toney. Massively think that'd be a brilliant buy for Manchester United. I know a lot of people disagree. I know Mark disagrees. But I think we have to get Ivan Toney. I think he's the best option for what the price we're going to be able to pay this summer. Ivan Toney will still be expensive. But for what you're getting, with a year left on his deal, it'd be hugely worth it for Manchester United. We need to have someone like that among our ranks. And I'm not saying that's going to improve the service. I'm not saying that. But you need two options. You need the young striker in Rasmus, the hungry striker in Rasmus that's, you know, got such a good work ethic, but isn't the finished article yet and could you know, Ivan Toney could massively help the likes of Rasmus, and you have 2 players competing. I mean, Rasmus played, what, 120 minutes yesterday. He's going to play again on Wednesday. Then he's going to play again on Saturday because they have no one else. That's not sustainable for a 21-year-old. You need 2 players. You need 2 players, and Ivan Toney is the one I'd be going to get. And then, of course, that update on Luke Shaw and Sandro Martinez was great to get from Romano as well. Snuck that in there at the end. Luke Shaw could be back for Manchester United's FA Cup final, and Man United hope that he will be back. It'll be push and go. They don't think Martinez will be back, but Luke Shaw could be back, and that could be absolutely huge. If we could have Luke Shaw for the FA Cup final against City, it gives us so much more of a chance. Doesn't mean we're going to beat City, but it gives us a lot more of a chance. But look, everyone, it's going to be an interesting summer, is all I'd say. There's no decision made on Ten Hag yet. He absolutely could leave, but he also could stay. FA Cup final is going to be a sink or swim for Erik, and it could genuinely be like a manager decider for him. And then in terms of the transfers, a lot of people quite hyped on Frimpong. Unless Wan-Bissaka goes, I don't think United will move there. So it all depends on if Wan-Bissaka goes. Striker situation, would you get in the comments? Striker situation, would you want a Toney? Would you want a Sesko? Which one would you go for? Would you go for a Branfrey? Would you go for a Todibo? Which route would you go for on that? And how are you feeling at the moment on the manager situation? I know a lot of people are frustrated. I was at Wembley yesterday. It was massively unacceptable. I know that. But, you know, the manager and the players, and then the whole club, you know, need to take blame for that. It's not just on one person. But go and watch my review on that on the United stand. Also, I did vlog Wembley yesterday. It is a tumultuous vlog. The first video that I'm going to be putting up on my own YouTube channel. Go and subscribe to that if you like. It's Beth Tucker on YouTube. Going to be hoping to put that out either tonight or tomorrow. Coventry vlog. I mean, it was very dramatic. Please go and subscribe and give that a watch if you want to. And then the last super chat here from Ian Pilarski says, Beth, what about Lewandowski to support Rasmus? I'm not going down that route again. Lewandowski is obviously had a phenomenal career. But when I say an experienced striker, I mean 28-year-old, you know, 29-year-old, 27-year-old. I mean, how old's Lewandowski now? I mean, how many strikers have we gone for as stopgaps over the age of 30? For me, it's just an absolute no. So, yeah, for me, that good super chat, but for me, it's a no. But look, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for everyone for following us on our journey to Wembley yesterday. Got the result in the end, and yeah, keep up with all the content, guys. Sheffield United right round the corner. Hit a like on the video. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments. I'll look through them. Have a lovely rest of your day. Mark will be back for the 8 PM show, and we'll see you on the next one.